Welcome to my RP-1 series. This is episode number 5, and the first thing we're going to do is launch an X-plane. Alright, now this was at night. I didn't exactly remember to warp till day before launching, so I've adjusted the brightness so you can actually see it. Alright, so we're going to fire up our engine and pitch up to get to that required altitude. After hitting 70 kilometers, we start to pitch down, and once again, I was kind of worried about this plane just breaking up, but it seems like this won't be an issue. And then we just glided back to the Space Center, and I did some S-bends, and I kind of rode around in a circle a little bit so we could scrub off enough speed for a landing. Touchdown. Oh, a little bit of a bumpy landing, but everything seems to be a-okay. Alright, here we are back at the Space Center. What I'm going to do is look at our tech tree a little bit. The next thing I want to buy is this entry, descent, and landing because it's really important for return missions. Alright, now we're going to launch our second orbiter. Here you can see me warping around so that when we launch, our satellite will be perpendicular to the sun so it gets as much solar energy as possible. Because that's right, this is a solar-powered satellite. Here we are on the launch pad. I'm going to turn on Smart ASS. I'm going to throttle up, and then I'm going to lift off. Now I'm going to start slightly pitching over as we ascend. I want to get a really efficient ascent for this rocket. Here we are approaching engine flame out, and this is when we're going to have to light that second stage, which doesn't have a very big chance of lighting, so cross your fingers. Alright, here we go. We're going to turn on RCS for ullage, and we're going to... Alright, looks like it ignited. We are already doing better than Starship. Now that our engine's flamed out, I'm going to turn off Smart ASS, I'm going to warp to Apo-Apps, and then I'm going to use the RCS to point us in the right direction, and then we can fire off that last stage. You can see us once again reaching orbit. Looks like we got into a pretty nice, high, stable orbit, so I'm going to decouple the satellite, and then I'm going to run some science experiments. Alright, looks like we completed the scientific satellite contract. So I'm going to warp around, I'm going to complete a bunch of scientific scans, and those solar panels will keep providing us energy. Here we are back at the Space Center, and as you can see, we got a bunch of cash and we got a ridiculous amount of science. So here we are. I'm going to go back to the contracts, and I'm going to select some new contracts. Most of these I don't think we can do, but looking at that navigational satellite, I think we might be able to launch that. And the lunar impactors, lunar stuff is so far out right now. Here we are in R&D. I'm going to spend some science points. I really need that orbital rocketry, so we're just going to get that. That's actually the 1958 orbital rocketry. And I also want some upgraded solar panels because that means I could run more scientific experiments at one time. And then we're also going to get the mature supersonic flight because they have far better jet engines. Alright, as you can see, we're slowly pushing our science back up, back at the satellite, but after a while, it gets less efficient. Once again on the launch pad for our third satellite, and this one's actually pretty special. It's a polar satellite, so I'm changing our heading to 0 instead of 90, so we're going to be going straight north. We're going to fire up that rocket engine, and then we're going to lift off, and I'm going to start pitching over pretty quickly. I want to get another efficient ascent. Right, here we are approaching engine flame out, and then we're gonna have to light that second stage, which may not light. Here we go. And all right, there it is. You know the drill at this point. We're just gonna warp to apoapse, and then I'll use that RCS to point us in the right direction, and then we can fire away. Look at that, you can see the Great Lakes down there. So we're gonna spin it up, and we are going to fire up that engine. Alright, here we go. It's looking pretty close. Hopefully we make orbit, and alright, looks like we made it. Oh, just barely. Our apoapse is only 614 kilometers, or 668 kilometers. Alright, here we are back at the Space Center, and the first thing I'm going to do is address my horrible mistake. I should have bought the next biggest launch pad immediately after accepting the orbital flight contracts, or at least immediately after completing them, but instead I waited around a bunch, and now we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for our Mercury program. But now we've got this old rocket here at the launch pad, and we're going to think it's doing some biological sample research or something like that. So let's fire it up. And of course, this rocket is unguided. So we're going to release, despin the payload, and then we're going to warp down to reentry. Here we go, and all right, it looks like the service module exploded, but that was by design. And the parachutes took in most of the heat. As you can see, the bottom parachutes actually disintegrated, but I also put parachutes on the side because I knew the bottom ones might disintegrate from the heat. Alright, here we are on the launch pad, once again for another satellite. This one is a navigational satellite, and it's going into a 45-degree inclination orbit, so it's going to be a pretty high inclination orbit right here. And as you can see, as we start pitching over, we're actually going to start going southeast instead of just east or just north. So here we are, burning through that first stage. And here we're on engine flame out. We're going to turn on RCS, and then we are going to light that next stage engine, and it didn't ignite. Well, I knew this was going to happen at some point, so I guess we'll just ignite the next stage and just, I don't know, just for kicks and giggles, I guess. So I'm just going to ignite it. No real reason behind this. Just for fun. See how far it gets, you know. I'll have to launch this mission again, but, you know, it is what it is. Here we are back at the Space Center. I'm going to put the navigational satellite back up to the top again. We're going to build a second one, and I think that'll conclude it.